This video is an introduction to buying solar and a home storage battery. We're going to look at the shoulds, the musts and the other things to consider and look out for when researching solar and/or a home storage battery. I'll answer those questions about what size system or what size battery, how long will it last and so on. So stay tuned. Hi, John here and welcome. So you want to get solar and you may want a home storage battery too. A number of people have asked for this video, so I hope you find this useful if you fall into that camp. If you already have home solar or a home storage battery, then please feel free to chip into the comment sections down below and share your experiences, your knowledge and best practice. Your interaction and comment helps to spread the word, give a wider knowledge base and a different perspective and user experience. The normal like, share and subscribe to would all be greatly appreciated, as these actions help to get this video shown to more people on YouTube, which obviously is a good thing. So this is not going to be a product review type video or what type of solar to get or which home storage battery is best in 2021. I'm focusing on what you need to consider before pressing the button, signing on the dotted line and saying, yeah, let's do it. I guess it's about the information and considerations you need to be aware of to help you make an informed decision and best suit the product to meet your individual needs. All the advice given here is based on my own experience, plus talking and listening to fellow solar and home storage battery owners. It's impartial and certainly not sponsored. As with any investment, don't just take my word for it. Do your own research too. As they say when investing in stocks and shares, your investment can go up and down. Your home is at risk if you don't keep up your mortgage repayments. Sunshine will go up and down. You get the picture. The information I'm sharing was correct at the time of recording this in February 2021. If you're watching this in 2040, well, then not all of the content may be relevant or even accurate for your home on Mars. And the last caveat, everyone's situation is different. The type of house, the available space that can be allocated for solar panels, the geographical location of the installation, roof orientation, the incline of the roof, plus your typical energy consumption, any budgetary restrictions, and what the end goal of getting a solar system and or battery home storage is, and so on. Suffice to say, looking at someone else's solar and home battery setup does not really give you the whole story. By comparing what you can physically see on the roof in terms of panels or home storage battery, there's a danger you're going to be comparing apples with oranges. You need to compare obviously apples with apples, and to make a meaningful comparison, the other factors I've just listed also need to be considered. So my setup meets my needs, but may not meet yours, which is why I'm sort of shying away from using my setup as an aspirational model, because for most people, it's probably not. I'm guessing you're probably thinking, well, yeah, that's not really helpful, John. How do I know what I need? Can't you just tell me? Well, one of the best things you can do if you're considering getting solar and a home storage battery is to find answers to the following questions I'm about to give you. And in doing so, finding these answers, it will actually save you loads of time, quite possibly money. But more importantly, it will allow you to remove the chaff from the wheat and really understand your needs. Understanding your needs rather than your wants, the two are very different. What you want is not necessarily what you need. So let's get on to the questions then. So first question, how much electricity do you use in a year? This is probably the key piece of information, as it will guide you to the size of the solar system / battery that you need. Dig out your previous electricity bill for the last 12 months and see how much electricity you have used. Seasonal variations are vital to take into account. Typically, if you live in the UK, you'll use more energy in the winter versus in the summer. However, if you live in hotter climes, then air conditioning is probably a large proportion of your electricity consumption during the hotter months. So due to those seasonal variations of electricity, you can't just look out your last month or quarterly bill and times it by 12 or 4 respectively, as the answer will most likely be skewed. I've done a bit of research, and to give you a flavour, OVO Energy, a UK energy supplier, suggests the following annual averages for each house type in the UK. A mid-terrace, 2,779 kilowatt hours. A flat, 2,829. End terrace, 3,442. Semi, 3,847. A bungalow, 3,866. And a detached, 4,153. Octopus Energy suggests a small house or flat, 1 or 2 bedrooms, 2,000 kilowatt hours per year. Medium house, 3 bedroom, 3,100. Large house, 4 bedrooms or more, 4,600. We have a detached house, 4 bedroom, and we use 6,000 kilowatt hours in the last calendar year. So taking an average is not a great way to go. It's worth spending the time to actually land on as an accurate figure as you can. And this will prevent you from over or worse undersizing your solar system and or home storage battery. Next question. Do you see any medium or long-term changes to your electricity usage? Are you considering getting a battery electric vehicle, air source heat pump in the next 5 to 10 years? If you have gas central heating, will it be replaced with air source heat pump or an electric boiler, for example? Think about those potential changes that may or may not happen in the future. Try and future-proof your solar and battery installation now rather than having to add to it at a later date. Next question. How long do you intend to stay at the property? And this will help you understand the payback period and whether it's actually worth spending the money. On average, the cost of installing solar with a battery can be anywhere from a 10 to 20 year payback period. If this is not your forever home and a return on investment is part of your primary reason for getting renewables, then you seriously need to think carefully about the benefit of investing. Your typical lifestyle routine. Are you at home all day or out at work all day? This will dictate your energy usage patterns. Do you normally work from home, pandemics aside? Do you spend 6 months of the year in the Bahamas, for instance? If you have a family, then consider the number of people and their ages. A family of 4 with 2 teenage kids will have a very different energy usage pattern over a couple in their 70s. If you are at home most of the day, then you have the opportunity to take advantage of any solar generation. If you're at work all day, then you'll be generating and potentially sending surplus back to the grid whilst you're at work, unless you work nights, obviously. And I guess this is where home storage battery can come in to allow you to store that excess solar energy generated during the day until later in the day once the sun has gone down. And we'll talk more about that later. Next question, your budget. Is it a biggie or not so big? This is obviously going to dictate what you can and cannot do. Next question is, how big is the available space for your panels? At this stage, you just need a rough idea. A Google Earth satellite view of your property will give you a ballpark figure which you can work with. You can use the measuring tool to give you a rough guide. So open Google Maps on your computer, locate your property in the satellite view, globe view, allows you to zoom in closer, zoom into your property, position your mouse pointer where you want to measure from, right-click the mouse and choose Measure from the pop-up menu, click on the endpoint, the distance will be shown below in the pop-up box. To clear the result, click the cross in the box at the bottom and repeat as often as you need to. Also, while you're sort of nosing around in Google, see if there are similar sized properties in your local area with solar. Counting up how many panels they have on will give you, again, a rough idea. When you decide to press ahead, and the solar installation company will come and do a proper detailed survey for you rather rely on your back of a fag packet measurements that you've just done there. But it gives you a starting point. Stay in Google Maps while we're there. You'll need that for the next question, unless you already know the answer, obviously. What direction does your location face? Knowing what direction the roof faces is important to actually estimate a roof-mounted PV's array generation potential. In Google Maps, locate your house and your roof line. In Maps, by default, north is orientated upwards. Using that information, you can work out the orientation of your roof. There's other ways to find the orientation on your roof as well. Obviously, an actual compass is ideal, but not everyone has one of those. I also have one on my phone, which I use now and again, so that's another alternative. South-facing is preferred, assuming you're in the Northern Hemisphere. However, as long as the solar panels receive daylight, they'll generate electricity. So don't be put off if you don't have a location that is south-facing. East, west, and angles in between will all generate solar energy. North-facing is certainly the least preferred option, as you could find generation of up to 50% less than the equivalent panels on a south-facing roof. However, if you really want solar, and that's all you've got, then you haven't got many options, unless you can turn your property around on a turntable like they do with the railway locomotives. Question: is there any shading on the panels? Shading reduces panel efficiency. There are things you can do to lessen the impact, but it's worth being aware of any shading. Remember, the sun location will be different in the winter to the summer, so take that into account too. There are some great apps for finding the location of the sun at various times of the year. As a photographer, I use photo pills, which will allow you to see the sunrise and sunset for any date in time, for any time of the year at a chosen location. Some shading is okay. It's best not to have it between 10 AM and 4 PM if possible, when solar generation will be at its best, depending on the time of year. There are some solutions for panels that are shaded. There's devices called microinverters that you can have fitted per panel rather than the panels being connected to a single inverter. This means that each inverter works to its optimum for that panel rather than the whole system being slowed down to the pace of the least effective panel, as is the case in the daisy chain single inverter setup. Next question: what is the elevation of your roof or location where you want to place your panels? Elevation plays a major part of efficiency of the system. Panels positioned at a low elevation, sort of flat if you like, means in winter with that low angle of the sun there's going to be a reduced efficiency over the panel, and you obviously need a higher rate angle for more efficiency in the winter. Conversely, in the summer, a steeply raked panel or a vertically hung panel on a wall, for instance, will perform worse during the height of the sun when it's overhead at midday. Typically, UK roofs are around 40 to 50 degree pitch, so if you're not sure of your pitch, you can use that as a starting point. They say size is everything. Well, that may not always be the case with solar. However, I've never heard anyone who has solar panels say, I wish I'd have got less panels. or a smaller battery for those with batteries. Ideally, you probably want the largest solar system that you can afford or that can be fitted to your chosen location. However, the decision on size may not be yours and yours alone, and we'll come back to that in a bit. So we're going to go back to that research that you did earlier, how much electricity your home uses over the year, that total that you looked up. Now's the time to whittle that figure out and compare it against the different sizes of solar installations. There are some great free resources online, calculators and those sort of things that will help us. I've linked to a couple down in the description down below. The one I'm demonstrating here is from the Energy Savings Trust, a UK independent organisation. These estimators will help you calculate your potential annual benefit, your savings, lifetime benefit, estimated installation costs, lifetime maintenance costs and more. However, the clue is in the title, estimator. If when you decide to press ahead with your solar installation, your installer should do a more in-depth forecast projection for income generation and so forth based on your quoted installation and your location. So ask beforehand just in case they don't do this. As you can see here, if I have a 6 kilowatt panel system, it will cost around £8,000 to install and generate around 5,000 kilowatt hours per year. You can now work out, based on your own electricity usage for the year, what size array you need if you want to cover the maximum of your usage. Earlier in this video, I said I would come back to a point about making the choice about the size of the array, and it may not be entirely down to you. Your house is connected to electricity cables in the street. You don't own those cables. They belong to the DNO, the District Network Operator. And they will have a say, or they may have a say, on the size of solar or battery storage that you can have. In the UK, there seems to be quite an array of players involved in getting electricity to your home. And some of those companies cover specific geographies, which means depending on where you live in the UK, your DNO will be different. I thought it was worthwhile giving a very brief high-level overview at this point. And your infrastructure may differ if you're in a different part of the world, so please forgive if you're not in the UK. Our UK electricity transmission networks carry the high voltage electricity across the length and breadth of the country. This electricity transmission map gives you an idea of the companies and who looks after what in various parts of the country. Substations convert the high voltage electricity so that it can be carried along the local distribution networks. These local distribution networks, running at lower voltages, deliver electricity to homes and businesses across the UK. This electricity distribution map shows the geographic breakdown of companies who look after the local distribution networks. Your DNO, District Network Operator, is a company that owns and operates the power lines and infrastructure that connects to your home. The DNO is also sometimes referred to the Electricity Network Operator. Therefore, the DNO may not be keen on Johnny 5 panels pumping back loads of excess electricity into the network without prior approval. It's actually more like Johnny 25 panels, as you'll see in a moment. If your installation has an aggregate rating of 16 amps or 3.68 kilowatt per phase or less, then your solar installer just needs to send to the DNO a completed G98 Form B microgeneration single instant commissioning form. So in short, it's a pre-approved installation. There's a few caveats around that, but that's basically the top line of it. If you want an installation of a larger solar array that is over 16 amps, 3.68 kilowatts, or you want to install solar and a home storage battery, then Form G99 is the one for your solar supplier installer to complete. This is a request to connect to the network, which may or may not be approved. Your solar installer will take care of this form and do it on your behalf. But one good point is if you get approval, make sure you get a copy of the DNO approval, as most likely you're going to need it in the future. And you'll have one for the battery and one for the solar installation, so make sure you get both, if you're having both. Next question. Will I make my money back? Almost certainly yes. However, how long that takes depend on many variables. Things like the size of your solar array. A larger array will generate more electricity and allow you to break even more quickly, even though the cost of a larger array is, more expensive, but it's not really proportional to a smaller one. E.g., there's a slight increase in the cost of installation for a larger system over a smaller one. So from the outset, I guess you really need to be clear on what your aim is with solar and or a home storage battery. Is it to reduce your energy bill or remove it completely? That answer will dictate the size of the array you're likely to need, but it will also have a bearing on your timeline for payback. What about planning permission? In the UK, you shouldn't need planning permission for solar PV system. The main potential exceptions to this, if your property has a flat roof, is listed or is in a conservation area. However, there are so many local variations, it is best to check beforehand with your local planning office. Their websites are often a great place to start, as they will have a FAQ section which will cover questions like that, and you certainly won't be the first person to ask it, so it will be there. Another useful resource I came across is the interactive planning portal in England, and I'll put the link again in the description down below. You can see here that you can work your way through that, so that's quite interesting. Next question. What about maintenance? There's actually very little maintenance required. The inverter is likely to need replacing before the 25-year lifetime of the solar panels. And when this happens, depending on the quality and the specification of your inverter, it could be 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, whatever. That's really the main component that could fail or need replacing due to reduced performance. Solar panels can benefit from a wash every few years. However, each time it rains, they get washed with nice soft rainwater. So, if you do decide to wash them yourself and you live in a hard water area, and your tap water may leave sort of scaly deposits on the surface of the glass panels, making them actually less effective than before when you wash them. I've washed my panels twice in 10 years, and that was just to get rid of some bird poo. I've hinted about home storage batteries throughout this video, so let's look at those in a little bit more detail. Question: is a home storage battery worth it? Well, that depends. It's worth stating they are not inexpensive items. If you are basing your decision to buy a home storage battery purely on cost savings, then you're going to have a bit of a complicated balancing act to make the figures work for you in your favour. However, there are more benefits to home storage batteries other than a return on investment, which are also worth considering. Storage of energy for later use, lower your energy costs, earn money by selling stored energy back to the grid when the price is higher, becoming independent from the grid. If there's a downside to solar panel generation, is that you have to consume the energy immediately. If you're at home all day, then you have more scope to do that. So for that reason, a home storage battery may not be financially viable for you. However, if you are exporting lots of surplus, even if you're at home all day, then a home storage battery will certainly be more appealing. Basically, as the stored surplus energy can be used to power the home when the sun has gone down. Also, there's an option to be on a smart tariff with your energy supplier, where you can top up the battery with cheap off-peak electricity and then use that power to power the house when the electricity is at its highest. This approach is often best done during the winter months when there may not be enough solar generation during the shorter days to run the house and top up the battery on a consistent basis. Many home storage battery owners balance the potential of available surplus solar by looking at the weather forecast for the following day versus charging up the battery during the cheaper off-peak times in the early hours of the morning the night before. It can be a sort of do I or don't I charge decision, really, perhaps not made easier by the vagaries of the UK weather. There are smart energy tariffs in the UK that allow you to sell energy back to the grid, and you can export stored power in your battery when the grid needs it at its most and then get paid for it. The Tesla Energy Plan from Octopus Energy is one such plan. In January 2020, the UK government introduced a new scheme known as the Smart Export Guarantee, SEG. It pays you for the solar that you export to the grid, and prices and approaches vary from supplier to supplier, so it pays to shop around online to find the best deal. Another benefit of a home storage battery is the ability to power the house during a power outage or power cut. Not all home batteries can do this. So if this is a requirement because you suffer from frequent power outages, then make sure you look at the home storage battery system that allow your property to be island or off-grid. It's worth noting that for many people, the decision to fit energy storage is not purely a financial one. The idea of becoming less dependent on the grid and electricity suppliers, whilst at the same time reducing your carbon footprint, is very attractive to people who wish to make a contribution to local and global sustainability. Question: what size of battery is needed to power my house? You should have a fair idea of this now based on the electricity usage you collected earlier. What is your average daily consumption of electricity? It's worth understanding what your house base load is, e.g. your house at rest, if you like. With everything turned off, like the cooker, the washing machine, the television and so on, how much electricity does your home require to power the fridge, the freezer, and any of those transformers that you need on for phones and internet routers and that sort of stuff? Stuff that's always powered up day and night, basically. That is your house's base load. It could be 100 watts per hour, it could be 1,000 watts per hour or more. But knowing this will help you understand the size of the battery you need. If you want a battery to run your home for 10 hours per day and your base load is 1,000 watts per hour, then you're going to need at least a 10 kilowatt battery pack. Many of the home storage batteries on the market are scalable, which means if you find you're underpowered, you can add to your existing setup. How long do you want your battery pack to run for? Is there a peak time period when the electricity is expensive when you want to power your house from the battery? This will also give you an indication on what size of battery you need. What activities are you likely to be undertaking during that peak time period? Cooking? Any other appliances that are likely to be running? As with solar, each household and individual lifestyle would dictate the requirements here. Unfortunately, there's no shortcut. Unless, obviously, money is no object, and then you can overspec with whatever you want. Question: are all home storage batteries equal? Definitely not. Apart from the physical storage capacity, for example, Tesla Powerwall 2 has a storage capacity of 13.5 kilowatt hours when fully charged, you need to be aware of how quickly the battery reacts to changes of power demand in the house. Plus, what is its maximum continuous supply load? Some home storage batteries can take 10, 15, 20 seconds to respond to a change in load in the house, and then they ramp up slowly to supply that demand. In the meantime, you're pulling the delta that the battery cannot supply from the grid. Each one of these instances can add up over the course of a day, a week, a month, a year, and result in a larger grid pull than perhaps you intended. Especially if it's during that more expensive peak times and more expensive rates of electricity. A less responsive battery solution may work out more expensive over the longer term, as those bills will certainly add up. There are battery systems that can respond within fractions of a second and supply 5 kilowatts instantly without needing to ramp up. So there's undoubtedly a cost. These cost more, which again is a consideration. Also, check the manufacturer's warranty period. 10 years is about the norm. Some offer extended guarantee over and above that for a fixed fee. Check the recommended operating temperatures as well. Can the battery be located outside if needed? Or must it be housed indoors or in a garage, for example? Check on the number of life cycles that the battery will perform and still be in warranty. Some are unlimited, others are 6,000 cycles. Check the depth of discharge. So how much energy can you use from the battery before it needs to be recharged? Some can provide 100% depth of discharge, DOD, whilst others are limited to 80 or 90%. What about controllability and data recording? Finally, investigate how controllable the battery solution is. Some will allow you full control to charge as and when you want, whilst others work on a sophisticated algorithm and offer the end user little in the way of manual control. Likewise with data recording and access to that data. Only you will know what data you want to see. Some people don't care and have a sort of set it and forget it approach. Others want to see clear, easy to read graphs and data to enable them to monitor and review the performance of their battery system. So hopefully this answers some of the questions around solar and home storage batteries. If you decide that solar and a home storage battery solution, then it's often cheaper and easier to get them both installed at the same time. If you have any questions or need any clarification, then drop them down below in the comments. If you have any suggestions, ideas and thoughts, then again, I'll see you down in the comments section where we can chat about them. Have a look down in the description below this video for websites and resources, some of which I've covered during the video, others I didn't include, however, you may find them useful. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next video. All right, cheers, bye.